I'm actually very happy to follow Ulrich because from the other side, from the CDMO side, I'm answering a similar question and talking to you about forging partnerships for success with strategic outsourcing. Oh, that's nice and simple. So I will talk to you about why might we want to outsource. Following on exactly what you said, why might we want to outsource, when might we want to outsource, and when we might want to think a bit more strategically about it. We'll go over some best practices, so what to look for in a partner, how to contract with people and companies, and then key benefits of doing so, some of which will be really obvious, and some we'll talk about at a more strategic level if we think longer term. Communication. I'll touch on this right the way through the presentation because communication is critical to the success. It's critical to partnerships and it's critical to the success of outsourcing. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about what's coming in the future and what might already be here in the near-term future as well. So it's true to say that we do outsource now more than ever. For a variety of reasons, but the data stacks up. You know, new CMOs are popping up every day, new CROs, new specialist vendors. The large pharma are also having their own CDMO outsourcing sides of their businesses. That's not uncommon, and that's to meet the market needs, right? The market is there and people are needing it, so there is a reaction to it. Since the early 80s, lean workforces have been a key topic. People want more work from less people. So companies have fewer people, fewer hands to do things. Virtual companies are really popular right now, really common in the drug discovery world. There just isn't enough people to do all of the work. So sometimes there is a necessity to outsource. But that does not that doesn't stop the fact that the amount of skill and experience that's required to bring a drug to the market, it's still staggering. So it's still the same amount of work and the same amount of time. So people sometimes need to outsource for other reasons. The graph that I have here is from McKinsey & Co. It's data from 2022, and it shows really that large pharma buy their drugs later in the pipeline. And they do that because, well, maybe not because, but they do that. And one of the benefits that they see, I guess, is that drugs that are bought in or in-licensed perform better than those that are developed in-house. So those drugs are developed in smaller institutions, the ones I mentioned earlier, the lean workforces, and the small virtual companies. Okay. So sometimes you might need to procure your services, and sometimes you might want to think a bit more strategically about things. The difference between the two is really personal. It's down to an individual company, and it's down to what their strategy is, right? So there isn't, I don't think anyway, a definition of strategic outsourcing because it differs by company and company, and it differs within that company as well. Strategic outsourcing, however, so I have tried to put down some differentiators in my mind, and strategic outsourcing to me is thinking more on the longer term. It's thinking more out into the future. It's thinking more right holistically across your company, across your pipelines. So it really is, from a strategic point of view, you're thinking more about enhancing efficiencies for your company. You're thinking more about enhancing the expertise of your company rather than maybe saving some cash in the very near-term future. Okay, so some key benefits of outsourcing, and these are not new to you. Ulrich went through some of these as well from a point of view of Bayer. So really you're looking to, can you access that expertise? You might not have it in-house, and this is why some large pharma also outsource. It's why some of those smaller virtual companies that I mentioned outsource. Access to experience, so maybe you haven't worked on this molecule before, or maybe you haven't done this manufacture at this scale before, so you're outsourcing for that experience. Looking for these two things, you can also access areas of the globe that you really haven't reached before or you're not able to reach on your own, right? So you can reach new markets as well. That's a benefit of outsourcing. If you take all of these things and you've outsourced those skills, then it gives you a lot more time to focus on what you're really competent at. And that can bring lots of innovation, lots of benefits to you from a secondary perspective. You can reduce costs, you can reduce time, and you can reduce risk if you're not buying. So in the short term, you can definitely reduce all of these things. The sticker shock of a proposal from a CMO is definitely a real thing. But if you compare that to having the people, having the labs, having the equipment yourself, it's definitely lower. And then a final benefit that I've put onto here is another reason why some companies might outsource is for name recognition. So this company maybe is a very small biotech. They know that they will be selling that asset in the future to a larger company. They maybe want to work with a well-known, well-trusted, industry-recognized CMO to get that name associated with that molecule. So it gives a little bit of monetary value to their asset that they maybe can reap in the future. So these are all kind of key benefits of outsourcing, but if we think more about thinking strategically, so thinking longer term or thinking more broad across our pipeline or our company, we might outsource multiple tasks or multiple services to the same company, to the same group of people, and that might allow us to have cross-fertilization across those projects that maybe we wouldn't have got by outsourcing to multiple different companies. This can allow us to focus more on all of those benefits from above, so it can allow us to take more of that expertise, take more of that experience. We take that internal and grow. That allows us to have a competitive advantage. And one real big benefit of working with the same company for multiple points in a project is you become thought partners. So your partner can begin to anticipate your needs and anticipate your desires and start to make suggestions and offer advice that maybe you wouldn't be getting if you were spreading that work out. So when you're looking to source a partner, one of the most important things is really to understand yourself and understand your project. So where exactly are your gaps? Are you looking to outsource for skills? Or are you looking to outsource for technology or equipment? Do you really just need a set of hands, or do you actually need that advice and that kind of consulting to go with those hands as well? You need to think about what you need and what you want, and you need to define them really clearly and think about the difference between the two. So when you're setting up your checklist or when you're setting up your selection criteria, you need to have your absolute needs, but you also need to list out what you want to have in a contractor. And they won't be the same, and you shouldn't blur the two. Some of your wants might be higher priority, but they are still wants, right? Nobody will match everything if it's a need. Think about your budget, and not just about cash. You will need to invest your own time and your own people and your own skills in outsourcing work. So you really need to think about what's your budget with those as well. How many people do you have, and how much of their time are you able to invest in the outsourcing project, maybe as management, or maybe as oversight, or maybe just collaboration. And then think about changing and think about the future. So if we're thinking more strategically, it's less about this piece of work or that block of work or this one project up until phase one. Think about longer term. Think about what will happen to that asset after phase one. What is the destination or the destiny of that product? Will you keep it? Will you sell it? Will you onshore it or bring it back into your own network for phase 2, phase 3 manufacture? So think about how that will work. Can you find a partner that maybe has transferred processes already into you, or who has maybe transferred processes into your commercial CMO? And start to think about these in terms of wants. Some additional considerations or additional wants that might become needs one day in the future, but they're still needs, I think, in my eyes, still wants in my eyes. So no company will provide 100% of what you need. So you might need to have additional vendors. Will the CMO that you're contracting with provide the management of those vendors? Will they source them? Will they actively manage the relationships, or do you have to do that as well? Does your supply chain become larger? Your contractors are also somebody else's buyers, so how do they manage that side of their own business? Ask about how robust their supply chain is. Do they have a really big buying power, and can they get cheaper, more cost-effective materials, and will they pass those costs on to you, as all those cost savings onto you, or do they keep that for themselves? One thing on here as well that I think is important, that's becoming more common and is definitely asked for more and more, is what are your ESG initiatives? So as a CMO, we're asked this very frequently. Do they align with mine, right? So do your ESG initiatives or do your carbon zero goals allow me to reach mine? And they are, it was mentioned earlier on today as well, they definitely should be something that's talked about, and it's definitely something that your CMO should be open about. Okay, so just to close out the strong partnerships kind of piece of my presentation, a summary of the best practices, right? So understand the partnership that you want in terms of your wants and your needs, define exactly what you're looking for, but also communicate that at every aspect of your conversations when you're out seeking a contractor. Think about the type of partnership. I like my icon of people dancing here. So think about the type of partnership that you want. Do you need somebody to hold your hand and give you advice and guidance and walk you through that, whatever your journey is? Or do you need somebody really who just has that piece of equipment that you don't have, and you need them to just perform that test for you, right? So think about the type of relationship, and at all stages of your relationship or your partnership, make sure that you're communicating effectively what you want, and whether you're getting it or not. So key elements of a strong partnership are having a shared vision and having shared goals. I asked you to define your needs and your wants. I don't know if I said it, but communicate it, right? So communicate it really clearly to the people that you're partnering with across all levels of that partnership as well, not just with the leadership and the people that you do contract with, but right down into the scientists and the hands that are performing that work as well. Make sure that your vision is known and your vision is shared so that you're getting that kind of greater benefit of outsourcing. You will hit challenges. They're there in everyday life, right? And it might come in the form of misaligned objectives, or it might come in the form of time zone differences or communication barriers. Maybe there's cultural differences or language barriers. So try and maybe use technology to help you overcome some of these barriers. But the biggest tool that you have for overcoming challenges is really communication. Make sure that you're speaking to your CMO. Make sure that you are being really clear and really prescriptive about what you're looking for and what your expectations are. And then finally, I guess on here, I'll just mention continuous evaluation. So you should really be building into your upfront agreements those expectations, but you should also have regular check-in points to make sure that the expectations are being met, and defining upfront what happens when they're not. So how do you get that partnership back on track? Now, I just want to change tack a little bit and talk a little bit about Syngene. So I introduce who Syngene are and how we as a CRO, CDMO are responding to the need of strategic marketing, or the multiple different ways of outsourcing strategically. I said marketing. So Syngene is a global CRDMO. We have a CRO arm who can manage clinical trials. We have our own vivarium in India, and we have a hospital with nearly 200 beds, so we can manage those initial clinical trials as well. We have a CDMO division. I am part of that CDMO division, which has sites in India and also in the USA. We cover everything from drug discovery of small molecules and large molecules up to the manufacture and commercial and clinical manufacture of drug substance and drug product. We have over 6,500 employees. I've also heard 8,000 employees, so we have a lot of employees, primarily in India, but right across the world as well. And the majority of these are qualified scientists, so we place a heavy emphasis on skill and education and experience when we're employing. On a biologics perspective, which is the arm of the CDMO division that I'm part of, we have projects in animal and human health, clinical, commercial supply, and we can manufacture from microbial and mammalian products, expression systems. So if I just display this point in a slightly alternative manner, end-to-end is a term that's all over the industry right now, and when you're searching for a CDMO, it can be really confusing what end-to-end means. It really doesn't matter. What matters is what end-to-end means to you. So what's the beginning of your journey and what's the end of your journey, and does your CDMO align with that? So Syngene is especially well positioned to support the development of molecules that require small and large, or products that require small and large molecules. So for example, ADCs, we have this capability as well. Okay, so over 400 customers work with us today, and because of the diverse nature of these customers, we've really had to respond in a way that is quite diverse itself, right? So we have a number of different collaboration models outside of the traditional fee-for-service style of contracting with CMOs. One, dedicated R&D labs. So Syngene offers a ring-fenced set of resources, so be that people, labs and equipment. It's all ring-fenced and it's all managed by Syngene to meet the needs of whatever your project is or projects. They are typically work really well for a longer term project, so I have 5 to 7 years here, and they are very well suited to the discovery arm of the drug development journey. 2, full-time employee collaboration model. So here we again ring-fence those scientists just for your project. So we would match whatever the needs of your project are with the skills of our scientists. We ring-fence them, and they're just for you and your project. This works kind of medium term. So if maybe you have projects that are that might be prone to shifting market factors, or you don't quite know what the outcome is. It's maybe a risky project. This might be something that you might want to work on. It allows you the flexibility just to switch and pivot pretty quickly. 3, the traditional fee-for-service. So this is, flexible and on-demand people who really are part of a project team that work to a set of objectives to meet the goals of whatever your project was. And this works really well for single projects, single assets or single programs. It works really well for one-offs. It's a nice way to test whether a CDMO will work for you. And then 4, risk-reward. So this is maybe a way of working where so instead of contracting for 10 manufacturing batches of your product, you might contract with Syngene to, you want 100 kilos of product at the end of X months. It's on the CDMO then to define how quickly they can do that. And there's a real push on the CDMO to become innovative and make that process the highest producing, the best yielding that they possibly can, so that they can maybe reap some benefits by producing less than those 10 batches. So this is a good way for a longer term kind of commercial manufacture as well. So Syngene, I mentioned all of our customers are so diverse that we're open to all of these and any combination of them. Just an example of our dedicated R&D centres. So I've greyed out our Baxter model here because this wound down at the beginning of this year. I will be updating this slide. We do have another dedicated centre which is coming online in the next few months. But essentially I mentioned the ring-fenced resources, but also these centres will have the customer staff also as part of those centres. So this just makes a really great opportunity for constant sharing, collaboration, and a real thought partnership environment, so that we begin to anticipate your needs, we begin to understand exactly what you might be looking for next, saving you additional time, allowing you to focus more on whatever your skill sets are as well. Fosters creativity and learning for all stakeholders involved. So finally, I'll just touch on some emerging trends. Real-time data sharing is something that sounds like it should be fairly easy to do or fairly simple to do, but I would guarantee that everyone in the room has had issues with version control of shared documents on OneDrive, right? It just is not, it's not as easy as it sounds like it is. But real-time data sharing definitely is something that needs to become simpler. It needs to become more automated. It needs to become something that's a bit more reliable in the industry. Syngene does have data sharing platforms for its manufacturing and its R&D facilities that are shared with our customers throughout their project. Virtual person in plant, I think, is an exciting one. So, you know, the world is becoming more global, but linking it to sustainable practices and your ESG vision, do you really need to be traveling around the world as much as you might need to transfer your process or transfer your methods? So Syngene's QC lab is a good example of this, where we use VR headsets and virtual reality to allow our customers to not have to be there during method transfer. So this just is a really nice way of allowing the team to collaborate virtually, troubleshoot, and provide guidance and advice throughout that process. Okay. And then finally, just to summarize what I've mentioned, successful strategic partnerships are built on trust, which is grounded with excellent communication. So be open with your communication, be timely with your responses, and maybe make it digital so that it's easy and it overcomes some of those barriers. Share your goals, definitely share your goals, definitely have shared goals. This is a two-aspect point, right? So make sure that they are shared, but also make sure that they are shared, right? So that you're both on the same page about what you're looking for. Look beyond procurement and look for value-add possibilities. So you really should be getting additional benefits to outsourcing above and beyond the, you know, those basic ones that I mentioned. And I guess my final words will be: communication is king. The end. Thank you for listening.